Hello, everyone, and welcome to Self-Determination Module 2. We will be discussing one of the components called self-evaluation in this module. So what do we know about determination? I gave you the definition in Module 1, so we know what self-determination means, but does that lead to better student outcomes? So think about those components that we talked about in Module 1. Self-advocacy, self-evaluation, problem solving, goal planning, action planning. All of those pieces under self-determination, do those help our students have a better outlook as adults? Think about yourselves and all of those self-determination components that we have. Is that making life better for you as an adult? So let's look at some research. The life following formal education is always uncertain and can be very overwhelming with young people with disabilities. Support services are typically hard to find, which means that there's supports out there, but those supports don't last long or they are difficult to find. Funding is not there for our students with disabilities. So in order for our students to be successful, it's critical that our youth have self-determination skills and that they're able to manage those challenges they're going to face on a day-to-day basis. So research says that studies have measured self-determination, that individuals with cognitive and learning disabilities at the time of high school graduation and followed up with them 1, 2, or 3 years later. What they find is that individuals with higher level of self-determination skills were more likely to have experienced a greater number of positive adult outcomes, including a higher likelihood of being employed and earning more per hour than those who were not self-determined. That paragraph right there is very telling. Look at what that says. Findings have revealed individuals with higher level of self-determination skills were more likely to have experienced a greater number of positive adult outcomes. They were able to be employed as well as earn more per hour. That is huge. And those are the skills that we really need to focus on when we're talking about self-determination. So generally, the opportunity to make choices, express preferences, set those goals, being able to self-regulate, learning, and behavior have all been linked to a more favorable educational and adult outcomes. Again, another statement that is huge. We need self-determination so we can be independent, functioning adults. Again, think about those self-determination components from Module 1. Those are things that we, as adults, do on a daily basis. Being able to self-regulate when something goes wrong. Are we able to regulate our emotions? Can we regulate our impulses, our emotional control? Are we able to problem solve when a situation comes up? Those are self-determination skills, and that is what makes adults successful. So in this module, we're going to discuss self-evaluation. So when we're looking at self-evaluation, we evaluate ourselves on a daily basis. We look at ourselves deeply and say, are we doing what we need to do? We look and evaluate ourselves as humans, as parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, employees, employers. We evaluate ourselves when we're in the community, when we're talking about volunteering within our church, doing any type of recreation. We always evaluate. Are we doing the right thing for ourselves as well as for our family and for our communities? So in ways of self-evaluation, we need to understand our own strengths and prioritize goals so we can make decisions. The reason why it's really important to understand what our interests and our strengths are is to help us figure out what do we want to do in life. That's why it's really important to do interest surveys, making sure that we have everything that we need to know so I can make a decision. We also evaluate ourselves at work and behavior in relation to a certain standard. This is a pre-employability skill. Our employers set standards for us. They need to set those standards to make sure that we're meeting those standards. We're doing what we need to do and what's expected of us when we are working. We also need to evaluate ourselves in relationship to a goal. We set goals for ourselves all the time. We might not do a goal sheet, but we set goals such as maybe it's a goal that I plan on cleaning my house and spring cleaning every room by Friday. I'm going to take one room a day and I'm going to have everything done by Friday. That's setting a goal. At the beginning of every new year, a lot of people set goals. I'm going to lose weight. Okay, we set a goal. But what's our action plan steps into achieving that goal? We set goals for ourselves, but are we setting action plan steps? Are we breaking that goal down into something smaller, more manageable? If I'm looking at a goal that is too big and too broad, sometimes that becomes overwhelming and too much for us to handle. So we need to break it down into something more manageable. And then we always need to evaluate our performance. Again, are we meeting that specific standard? And why is that so important? Because employers expect this. They expect us to work and meet those standards that are set for us by our employers. And that is very important. If we can't meet the standard, then that means we're not able to perform the job. So how are we going to do this? I look at observable standards for routine tasks. I know what my routine is. I have it broken down. My employer tells me what my routine is. I have to work so many hours before I can have a certain break. Then I work another so many hours until I can have a lunch break. And then I work so many hours until I get to go home. And in those hours of work, what is my routine? What do I need to do? And our employers set that routine for us. So we need to teach our students routines. And the way to do it is I do, we do, you do. Explicit instruction. Are you meeting the specific standard? Are you performing every task that was outlined in that routine? We need to make sure we're providing daily practice, and we're also reinforcing those self-evaluation. We want to make sure that our students are using these routines on a daily basis. It could be as simple as a checklist, but are they using it and are they meeting that standard? Again, this is what employers are going to be looking for when they are looking for new employees and people that are working for them. Can they follow routine? Are they able to get it done? And are they working to my standard? So we evaluate progress towards our goals. Why? Every time we set a goal and we set our action plan, we need to look at, is this the right path for me, or do I have to revise it? Revisions are made all the time. We have to be flexible as adults because there's always going to be a problem or a situation that arises we're not ready for, and we might have to stop and reevaluate and revise our action plan steps to get to a certain goal. Or do we need to change parts of that goal because it's not working for us? Is it too big? Is it not something that I can manage? So how can I do that? I teach our students how to set short-term goals. Again, a goal this big seems overwhelming, but if I break it down into smaller, more manageable steps, it's not looking as all overwhelming for our kiddos. We want to make sure we're teaching them meaningful record performance data collection. Are we using visual strategies? Checklists. Do we need something that's showing a picture chart? Something that's going to assist them in completing every step of a routine. We use visuals every day. You use a phone. Some of you set your reminders, your calendars, everything to your phone. Others might have whiteboards that sit in your office or on your desk showing you your calendar, or a calendar where you actually write things down in. We use visuals every day. We need to teach our students how to use those visuals. And then we need to review. How is it going? Is there something going that's wrong? Is there something that's going right? Do we have to revise anything within our steps? Do I have to revise my goal? So again, we want to make sure that we're teaching our students every part of how to self-evaluate. Because again, the more information we have or our students have, the better we are at making choices. And then we have our self-evaluation of progress. Am I plotting my own data towards a goal? Am I able to see that I'm meeting and working towards that goal? to eventually I will get to that goal. I will achieve it. And then we have to choose the best strategy that works for us according to data. If a visual checklist is helping us reach our goal, then we want to continue to use a visual checklist. If we're using a calendar and that works, we need to use that. Post-its, whatever works to help us get to where we need to be, we want to make sure we're using that strategy and always evaluating, is that strategy working? Am I able to meet my goal? And if not, then we need to revise it. All right, thank you for sharing and working with me as we look at Module 2 of self-determination.